Ready?
Yeah, I have it.
All right. So I wanted to start out with this is my topic, and I wanted to start out with a very simple observation. So this right here is not a delicious juice. So it does not do very much good to keep the cran separate from the apple. And while it's valuable to articulate what the cranberry was before and what it is now, and how the apple benefits the cran and how the cran benefits the apple, it's also a moment to think about what is special about cran apple. And a moment to think to look not at stem and see, but at what emerges from squeezing and blending these two together. And so that's my last joke. It was a late night. But I'll talk about a couple things that stood out to me over the last couple days. And I think these are areas of both strength and areas of growth, places I see evidence, but in some cases not yet findings. So one thing I heard being brought up across the days was the importance of interdisciplinary partnerships and really their centrality to moving forward the work and thinking of STEM-C. We saw this in big projects like the New York Oyster Project as well as small projects, and I think this points to the fact that no one can do STEM-C alone, and that is a strength. The formation of teams through STEM-C has had an impact on research and learning as teams, for example, brought together new perspectives on learning, and learning design benefited, for example, from using language and literacy theories alongside math and computer science expertise. As teams discovered new problems that they would not have alone and developed new strategies for solving these problems. So the question here is, so I think we need to do more to document the impacts of forming and sustaining these teams on our team members and on our disciplines. And I think we need to ask, what are we gaining by thinking together about learning that we don't get from retreating to our disciplines and working each in our own way? So I also heard across the summit how important researcher-teacher and researcher-community partnerships were to projects. And while this is not unique by any means to education or to STEM-C education, the interdisciplinary of STEM-C work facilitated and motivated, I think, new kinds of relationships. And projects like STITCH, for example, allowed researchers to engage participants and partners that wouldn't otherwise be engaged in STEM or C. And STEM-C work facilitated connections between subject departments, between far-flung teachers, and between settings, across settings, like school, community, and even family. And so I heard about how these partnerships were important to broadening both the participation and valued practices of STEM in computing, and how important it was to make sure that we value and learn from all partners. So in STEM-C, I think we are seeing new kinds of partnerships that can sustain learning in new ways. And I think this really asks us to better document and theorize what these impacts might be. So a related theme I saw across a wide range of projects were PIs really paying attention to teacher PD in ways that make use of existing knowledge base in PD, but I think also build on that and add to it. So PIs struggled productively with the tension between co-design and expertise of designers and scientists, as well as the demands of research designs and scalability. But overall, I saw a lot of projects engaging in co-design and paying careful attention to what teachers were seeing, thinking, and valuing. And I think there was strong evidence that across a number of the high school and elementary school projects, for example, that teachers were getting on board with CT. But why is this unique? Well, I think that there is a required interdisciplinarity when trying to, for example, build a computational model of marine populations or groundwater contamination in your region, to create a light-up shirt, or to create a sensor network and make sense of messy data to figure out whether mold can grow in your classroom. And we saw that these types of problems, I think, really motivate work across departments and challenge teachers concepts of what their disciplines are and should be. And these considerations also brought up challenges like how to navigate conflicting learning standards and where we might need to develop new ones. But I think that these challenges, while large and inconvenient, are really going to be ultimately necessary for the larger education field to confront. And so as I see it, STEM plus C is really getting early data on what future learning will demand. And as such, I think the STEM community really has some new things to learn about teacher PD that aren't yet in literature, and I think that can move forward kind of the larger understanding of teacher development. But I think this asks for a couple things. One is more inclusion of work on, of research and theories on organizations, and I think it also asks for continued work on teacher learning. And by teacher learning, I don't mean how do we get teachers to learn the things we think they don't know, or how do we get them to do the things we want them to do, but really how is the convergence of STEM plus C offering chances for teacher agency and for unexpected kinds of teacher learning. And so this brings me to the last point, which is that I heard. Oh, those boxes are supposed to be arrows. An arrow from teacher PD to teacher learning. Guess my computational fluency is low. I'll have to talk to Francine, get her to help me. So in the broadening participation session, as well as others, one thing that came up was the way that engagement with computational concepts and tools had a way of really inviting teachers into the role of learner. And this did a couple of things. I think this positioned teachers as learners in ways that desettled their authority and knowledge hierarchies. It shifted how teachers view and talk about failure. It encouraged teacher ownership. It prompted a shift from instruction to facilitating creation, and from, as I heard, from sage on the stage to guide on the side. And that's a hard shift to motivate in a lot of situations. So I think that STEM-C work really helped teachers to quote, talk about things we never talked about before, and I think maybe most importantly to me, to really see students in ways they could not before, as capable, as creative, and as resources. So as Brian Gravel of Remaking STEM described to me, work in STEM-C provides an invitation to get re-enchanted with your subject and re-enchanted with your students' learning. And so I hypothesized that the convergence of STEM plus C really opens a slightly wider space, a few more dimensions in which teachers and researchers get to know students better and more holistically, and get to teach better and more holistically. And so some of what I heard about this was from surprised anecdotes, and some of it was the result of research questions. And I think all of that really needs to be documented as evidence of what STEM and C together can do. And so, lastly, the chance to be uncertain, to be uncomfortable, was of benefits to teachers, and it is of benefit to students. But I think it's also really important to us as a research community. And so I'm thankful to the organizers, to NSF, to EDC partners. I'm thankful that at this summit we were able to engage as co-learners, working to understand what CT and what STEM-C are and will be in the future. And though I think that the interdisciplinary and complexity of STEM-C challenge maybe our ability to defuzz higher level definitions of CT and STEM, I think they are really important opportunities to encounter the unexpected, and that these encounters will help renew this research community and really keep it at the forefront, at the vanguard of research into learning and education. Oh, that was supposed to say thanks.